It is just a huge honor today to be sitting at my dining room table with the man, the legend, Gary Kadi. I've known this guy for 20 years. You probably heard of him at www.nextlevelpractice.com. Known for his positive contributions to the lives of dentists and dental teams across the globe, Gary Kadi has been a devoted advocate for the whole of the dental community, their families, and their patients for over 19 years. A speaker, author, and researcher, Gary re-energizes, interrupts the status quo, and shares discoveries and interests far beyond helping dentists implement systems and raise their profit margins. He is inspired every day by the courage and personal successes of dentists and team members with whom he has the privilege of working and getting to know. After years of studying the reoccurring challenges of team, finance, and patient issues facing dentists for years, he had a breakthrough. It came in understanding the business model dentists were fighting to fix was created by a non-business practitioner who could throw up a shingle and be successful. He discovered the source of getting dentists off the drill, fill, and PPO treadmill. He created NextLevel Practice to implement the complete health dentistry business model where teams willingly embrace and implement change, patients respect their treatment regimens, invest in their health, and doctors enjoy practicing the way they envisioned at dental school graduation. Gary Kadi is also chairman of Partners in Complete Health, an organization committed to helping dentists understand the science behind complete health dentistry and the connections between dental health and overall physical health. In 2013, he took the first step in mobilizing the complete health movement by producing Say Ah, the world's first documentary on oral health through Partners in Complete Health. Man, thanks for coming by.
Thanks, Howard. Good to see you.
So basically, Gary, I'm in Phoenix. The suburb to the north is Carefree. He lives there a couple months a year, and he lives in Manhattan the other 10 months a year. Gosh darn, that's the life, man. Especially if you could live here in the winter.
That's the best.
There's nothing worse than Manhattan in February when the winds are going down the streets 50 miles an hour. But my God, Manhattan is just so cool.
It's super cool. I love it. You know, it keeps me busy. I got a mind like you. Like, you know, it's always moving. So I need stimuli, and New York gives that to me. You know, it always inspires me too, Howard, to get like good ideas, because a lot of innovation happens there in fashion and finance, and you know I like to bring that into dentistry, so that's why I like to be there.
So, you know, this show is so big, it covers really all spectrums of people, young, old, things like that. You know, I keep saying that podcasts will listen to my millennials, and I keep getting beat up by emails saying, "Hey, dude, I'm older than you are." Yeah. But let's address I want to start with this because this seems to be a reoccurring theme on Dentaltown.
Yep.
They are on, as you say eloquently, the drill, fill, and PPO treadmill. When I got out of school 30 years ago, I billed Delta $1,000 for a root canal, $1,000 for a crown. They pay 80% of the root canal, half the crown. 30 years later, 82% of dentists signed up for PPOs. Now Delta's saying, "I'll give you only $600 for the crown. I'll give you only $600 for them." So the adjusted production is down 40%. I mean, it's kind of weird being a dentist where 30 years later I'm getting paid 40% less for the same procedure, but God knows the equipment to make all this stuff goes up and up and up, and the staff, they get a raise every time the earth goes around the sun. And there's a lot of burned out people that feel like the fee schedules have got them on a treadmill doing dentistry for nothing and your chicks are free.
Yeah, I get it, man. And you know,
Remember that song, Money for Nothing?
Are you kidding? Well, you know, I want to speak to the millennials here. I didn't want to date myself there, because I'm actually
name that band, Money for Nothing
and your chicks for free. It's Dire Straits.
Very good.
Yeah,
man.
fist bump. But you know,
good.
I just lost half the audience of millennials here, man. That's not cool, Howard. That's not cool. And by the way, I was named an honorary millennial by Millennial International. You got to watch that video on YouTube, Millennial International. Hilarious. Wow. But my wife calls me a millennial, and I like being an honorary millennial. You know, it's a very cool thing to be in today's world. You know, even if I have gray hair, I'm like the oldest millennial on the planet. But it's big because we have to create this for the millennials. 50% of all workers in a dental practice are millennials, and if you're 50%, 50. So what's happening now is that if you don't know how to set your practice up to speak to the millennials, they want three things. You probably want to know what these three things are. They want to work for a purpose-driven place. If you're not purpose-driven, so you just turn your practice from a commoditized dental practice into a purpose-driven, a reason why you're doing it, making a difference for the community. They want to work in places like that. The second thing is they want to be able to work in pods and groups. So when we work, then the work we're talking about here today is about implementing change. Because I'm going to get to your question about like this whole PPO things. But if we don't get the millennials on board and we don't know how to implement change in our practices, we can't get rid of those PPOs. So to me, the source is taking care of the millennials, setting up a purpose-driven practice. Number 2 is they work in pods. So the way you deal with working with millennials is give them a challenge, have them collaborate in 2s and 3s. They bring the solution, they take ownership of it, and then they implement. Very smart approach in today's world. The third thing they want, and you'll see this. You go to a concert. I love Zach's here, 23 years old. Before the concert, before this, I'm going to watch the Suns. Before the concert, Howard, they're sitting there and they're going like this. And you know what they're doing, right?
Snapchat?
They're either Snapchatting or they're liking, right? So they're in the like group, the like generation. So they're liking others and others are liking them. And what do you think happens when that's being trained on the phone? It gets mapped out in the practice. So what do they want? They want to be liked. They want to be recognized. They want to be acknowledged. How many likes? Harvard did a study on this. Harvard did a study on how many likes a millennial wants in a workplace in a week. How many do you think it is?
In physical flesh or on Facebook?
Any kind of likes in the workplace. So like take the phone out of it and just you're walking through your day, you're interacting with peers and patients, and how many do you think that they would like really fulfills them? The number blew me away. What do you think it is?
12.
60. 12 a day.
Wow.
12 a day, and if you're off Fridays, you better ramp that up even more.
Yesterday, twice, I couldn't find my phone. I said, Jan, where's my phone? She goes, I'm not giving it back to you until you're 15 minutes behind. I said, are you my dental assistant or my mom? And she must be my mom because she said, get in your room and go knock out that root canal. That was pretty funny.
I love it.
So it was purpose-driven pods, and what was the third?
And the third is 60 likes. So really,
60 likes a day.
And a culture of acknowledgement, a culture of willingness gets created by a culture of acknowledgement. So the power of acknowledgement, we've built a whole systematic process to get those likes going, not just the dentist going, hey, you did a good job, but actually layers of those things called bonuses, called patient evaluations, reviews, Lisa the hygienist did great, so like when you create a culture of likes, all of a sudden the fulfillment goes in. And this goes back to your original, lead on this, is how do we get past this 64% payment on something that you said 30 years ago, you're getting even 20% less than you got 30 years ago. How do we
40% less.
40% less.
42. The national average is 42% adjusted production off their fee schedule and what the PPO is playing.
So how do you play in that game? The game is set up for you to lose or have to work harder. So how do we outthink this game? How are we going to outthink it? Well, the first thing is you need a culture of willingness, and you need team members that are willing and being on a mission. Because if you don't have that, there's no way that you can implement change. You just have to stay on the treadmill and keep frying yourself and doing more dentistry. Because if you want to make more money, the only way to do that is to do more dentistry, work more hours. To me, that's not an option for our dentists today. I want to take care of our dentists so that they can take care of patients for a long period of time. How do we do that? Well, first you have to create a culture of willingness. You have to take care of the millennial, number one. Once they're ready and willing, then you have to put systems and structures in. The number one way and reason to get off PPOs is, this was the question that I would ask myself, and this is the breakthrough that I had. When was the last time you bought something, Howard, that you didn't think you needed, was going to cost you thousands of dollars, may hurt you, and take time out of your day?
You talking about dating?
Yeah. That's
it. You talking about women?
Exactly. I mean, you could say your ex-wife, dating, you can, a boat, somebody said a boat, right? Dating, wife, boat. No, dentistry. So when you think about it, what business do you know that does not have a value creation system in it with a person that helps you move through the money issue? When I looked at this business model, I'm sitting here going, this is a business model from 1950s. We got to reinvent the business model so that there's a step-by-step process to increase value in the mind of the patient so they're willing to take out their money and pay for it. And that's how you break free from this treadmill of hell. It's just how it's done.
Well, it's funny because, Zach and I have been in a dozen countries in the last 6 months. In the last 6 months, we've lectured in Tokyo, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Cambodia, South Africa, London, Paris. But dental insurance is only in about 20 countries.
Yep.
200 countries don't have it. And when you go and you talk to like Chinese people, they're like, well, why would the government, I mean, you're drinking Pepsi Cola, eating a Hershey's bar. Why would your president or your boss pay for your root canal? They see it as a perverse incentive.
Yeah.
If you want to make something more expensive, subsidize it, tax it, whatever. But it's so bizarre that the Americans will pay $800 for an iPhone without blinking.
Exactly.
And then you tell them to pay $250 for a filling there, and they look at you like Bambi, like, well, I don't have dental insurance. Well, did you have phone insurance, car insurance, house insurance? They eat out 19 and 31 meals.
And here's the mind-blowing follow-up to what you're saying there. Because we got caught in the bureaucracy as an industry, and we got caught in the hell. How you break free is you really know why you're there, Howard. This is my breakthrough. See, I'm not a dentist. My background is in business and team development. So it took a kook like me to look at this industry, and my dad had a heart attack. This was the changing point for me. My dad had a heart attack, and I'm doing the traditional consulting. I'm going into a dental practice, and I'm talking to people, and I'm helping them change their behaviors and their actions and putting systems in and having it be implemented. And here's what happened. My dad has a heart attack. I speak to a hygienist, and I said, my dad had a heart attack. I'm really sad. She goes, you look really sad. I go, I am really sad. My dad had a heart attack, quintuple bypass. And then you know what she said? She goes, how is his perio? I go, what are you asking about his perio for? She goes, let me explain. And I'm sitting here. This is no kidding. I've been in dentistry at that point about 6-7 years. And no one in all the observations in every hygiene room I sat, Howard, spoke about the oral systemic connection. No one. Zero. Nada. For 6 years. Because that's how I was learning. I was learning as I was flying the plane as I was building it. So I'm building this business model and I'm flying the plane, meaning I'm going in and I'm learning, but in 6 years never heard that. And I said, that's the game changer. That's the source point for how we propose. So like, how do we value phones? Because every move we make throughout the day, this phone is connected to it. So it's perceived value in the mind of the person who's using it. You're going, that's my source. Well, you're using your body every day. And now we get to the emotion of, you want to be around for Zach. You just told me you had 2 grandkids. Congratulations, by the way, young man, being a grandpa. How cool is that?
Well, I want to live now because 3 out of 4 are single, but when they all have wives, then
then we'll pull the plug. Then we'll pull the plug. But Howard,
I want my last words to be: do not resuscitate.
You want to use up your inheritance, man, and just like go out diving into the grave. I know you, but listen, you use your body, and there's 3 things that every American wants. They want brain health, they want mobility, and they want to not have cancer, or we call it events. So when you tie the dentistry, here's what's going on, Howard. I used to check off I was pregnant on the medical history forms walking into a dental practice. I walk in and I'm checking off pregnant. How many of them ask me what trimester I'm in? How many do you think?
0.
Exactly. Because they're looking in this 2x2 office, and here's why the source of this is happening. I discovered this in my journey. Every dentist. I traveled continents, thousands of dentists, and I asked this question. How many of you were trained to find the chief complaint and fix it? I have not heard one practicing dentist say no to that. That's the way I was trained. Here's what question does that beget when they walk into a treatment room? What question happens? If you're trained to find the chief complaint, what do you ask?
I remember when I got my first credit card. For a joke, the first time I had to sign, the piece of paper and you check in a hotel. This is 1990, started lecturing. Every time, went to the first one was Sheridan Manhattan, Hertz Rent-A-Car. As a joke, I signed Richard M. Nixon, thinking the guy would think that was hilarious. I quit signing that after several years because it was no longer funny to me anymore. And I just thought, how long could you go with signing Richard M. Nixon and no one even looks? And I went to... I got referred to another physician, a dermatologist, whatever, and I filled out, I do stand-up comedy. I filled out every obnoxious, crazy disease you could have. She never even asked about it.
It's amazing, right?
She never even looked at it.
It's crazy. And then here we are, doctors, and our doctors going into a dental practice, asking the question, anything hurting, anything bothering you, why are you here? The minute you do that, you're going to stay on the drill, fill, and build treadmill because you're not going to do the asymptomatic care that's needed and wanted in a dental practice. You're not going to do that. But watch this. If you know that every American wants brain health, they don't want Alzheimer's and dementia, they don't want cancer or heart attacks or strokes, and they want mobility. My grandmother's going to be 100 next month. She can still walk. She's got clean brain. She is like the epitome of walking health, 100 years old, Howard. And she's got brain health, mobility, and no heart attacks or strokes, no cancer. When you start tying your practice and shifting it to a complete health practice, now you have a value proposition that's way wider than this 2x2 office. It's connected to the body. The value proposition, on a good day you save a smile, on a great day you save a life, and then just the systems follow to get you off of your PPOs.
You know, it's kind of funny because I grew up in Kansas, so, you know, I was born into Catholic, Kansas, Republican, American, and communists were the evilest thing. And everyone hated the central planned communism. And in communism, centrally planned, dentistry was a branch of medicine. It was stomatology. And if you become a dentist, I mean, the first 4 years are the same. The first 2 years of med school is the same. In the last 2 years, you might be a dentist, gynecologist, cardiologist, whatever. And then if you don't like dentistry, you can just go do a rotation in dermatology or whatever. But it seems like the United States made a bizarre move in 1880 when they started the University of Baltimore. And it was solely based on that the hospitals needed beds and the dentists needed chairs. And that was as deep as the intellectualism got. And so now 5% of the doctors in America are an entirely different system called dentistry. And it's just completely unrelated. And we do surgery all day long with our hands, yet 80% of physicians don't. And I mean, it's just so now we have this oral health continuing to come back, which you've been a great leader and pioneer in.
Yeah.
What do you think it's going to take to get dentistry back into the rest of the body?
It's, you know, thanks for asking that question. You know, here's what's going on. It's dentists themselves. Because here's what's going on. If you remember back in the 80s when whitening came out, the Hollywood smile, remember? And then it was like published that the lay person could have Hollywood smiles, or HELOC dentistry, I used to call it. You know, home equity line of credit, take it out of your house, put it in your mouth, you know, veneers, like all the whitening. I believe that the consumer dictates change in a dental industry. Because when the consumer's voting with their dollars, then dentists change, because we are a very static industry in some senses. In some senses, we're innovative like crazy. When you really look at it, the clinical side, like, do you use any of the materials that you learned in dental school?
Nothing.
No, zero. But look at the business side and the people side, still archaic. That's my area of expertise, is evolving the business model and evolving how we speak to and communicate to our teams and our patients in a way that they get it. And then, now here's what's going on. If you look at the evolution and the eras of shift, you know, we went from like gum disease, we went through a stage of like where technology evolved dentistry. Then we went through a whole cosmetic era where the cosmetic era shifted so many things. And now we're in something called the complete health era. And I've trademarked that, and the practices that work with us are complete health dentistry of Buffalo and of Houston. They're taking down cosmetic and family dentistry and repositioning themselves as complete health dental practices. And that's speaking to the consumer of what they want to buy. Look around now. Whole Foods was, if you the people that analyzed Whole Foods, they said they're a bunch of kooks. It's never going to work. The prices are off. Organics, nobody believes in organics. Now it's like it caused other supermarkets to put in whole segments of organic foods, if you will, right? That's what's going on in dentistry right now. If you look around, green juice units everywhere, yoga mats everywhere, the aging population. We could talk about the revenue and where the money's being spent in the 50 plus group, right? This group is voting with their dollars. They want longevity. So this is the way we position it. 39 and below, they speak sustainability, a sustainable earth. They know how to recycle. They understand the concept of taking care of the body so that they can live longer. When you and I were kids, we were like, throw the body around, drink, party, do what we did, through those days. The kids of today are not. I mean, you really see a decline in, drug use, cigarettes. I mean, it's really an interesting thing about taking care of the body. When you speak sustainability to them as it relates to dentistry, they hear that. When you speak longevity to the to the 39 plus person, the person in their 40s, longevity, once you shift from selling commoditized dentistry, which is crowns, the minute you say, what insurance do you take? And within the third question of that first phone call, Howard, the game's over, because you've bought into the mindset of insurance. But what I'm suggesting here is shift the context, the vision, purpose, and values of your practice to take care of the whole body health. That changes the content and the strategies with which you do in your practice. And these are the many layers that it takes to get off that PPO treadmill. Yeah.
This is April 19th to 21st is our 15th annual Townie meeting in Las Vegas.
Yes.
And starting next year, we're moving to Orlando for the millennials. Our generation's not going to Vegas, drinking, gambling, hookers. Isn't that what everyone loves? The Rat Pack.
That's what I thought.
Millennials think it's gross.
Exactly.
So we're going to Orlando because they want granola and yogurt and bottled water. And yesterday it was in the Wall Street Journal this week, the United States, this week, for the first time ever, sold more units of bottled water than bottled soda.
Look at you and I drinking water. That's a breakthrough right there, Howard.
Yeah, I mean it really is changing. But I know my homies, so I'm not going to throw you under a bus because I know what they're thinking. He's going to say, "Yeah, Gary, you're in New York City. I'm in Salina, Kansas."
I got my guy in Hayes, Kansas. Called my number one guy who's been with me for 10 years. Hayes, Kansas. There's one traffic light in that town.
I know, I've been there.
You've been there?
I was born in Wichita.
Oh my gosh. 25,000 people, 10 dentists. This guy's doing 2+, 1 doctor, 3 hygiene. He has hygienists doing $300,000 for each hygienist. We had a breakthrough year last year because they understand on a good day we save a smile, on a great day we save a life. And the hygienists buy into this because there's different kinds of hygienists. There's your gum gardeners, there's your polishers. These ladies are healthcare advocates. They know that they're the only healthcare practitioner, Howard, that meets with a patient twice a year for 2 hours. When you go to your medical doctor, you and I go because we're in our 50s and we want to take care of ourselves and we want to be around for, Zach's kids, right? My son Rome's kids. But ultimately, these ladies own that most patients don't go to their MD. Look at this. We did a study. Only 9 out of 10 health history forms in dentistry have a medical doctor on them, primary care physician. Only 1 out of 10 have it. 9 out of 10 do not. Excuse me. What does that tell you? That tells you that these guys and gals are not seeing their primary care physician on a regular basis. I'm not saying hygienists and dentists are replacing MDs. They're just, the minute you put a cuff on and you take a blood pressure, all of a sudden you're now coming from a new place. You're reading blood pressure. We've saved, how many lives have you saved? I mean, really, in dentistry, right? It's the mindset here. It's getting the team on board, and then you can create value because by the way, we can scan in a dental office now your carotid artery and know how thick it is and how your 60,000 miles of arteries, how thick they are, because it's all about inflammatory burden. If you have infection in your mouth the size of the palm of your hand, the body will never resolve inflammation in the rest of the body because it's always going to fight the mouth. You're the clinician.
Hey, you were really a pioneer in this, and you bankrolled a movie on this. Talk about your movie. Yep. And I was wondering, I wonder if we could put a commercial of that at the end of the
I can give you
podcast or
sure.
something. Or
the movie itself.
Say all.
Yeah, I can give you 11 minutes of it.
Yeah, give Zach and Ryan the 11 minutes. Podcast? Yeah, we'll put it at the end of the deal. I mean, he bankrolled a movie. Talk about that.
Yeah, I self-funded this thing. See, I didn't want it to be bureaucratic and have people, put the message in there that I wanted. But what I found was there was all these practitioners doing this amazing work: heart attack, diabetes, stroke, baby births. The effects on births, sleep apnea. We're doing a ton of airway work. So we've combined this oral systemic connection, bacteria and airway, and change people's lives. So
now, how long is that movie?
60 minutes.
60 minutes. Is it on Netflix or?
No, it's you can get it on sayathemovie.com.
How come you don't have it on Netflix or Hulu or?
I don't know Amazon? I didn't know how to do it yet, so I just.
So, oh my God! So they're now in the content creators because they don't want you buying cable. Now, if you it used to be I do comedy. Nobody can get HBO comedy special. But now you can, have your own comedy show, film it yourself, and upload it to Hula, Amazon.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you could upload that to.
That's great to know.
Hula,
I didn't know that.
Amazon and
because
Netflix.
It's been amazing. Here's how people are using it. When you go inside your reception area, we have it in a lobby loop format where it loops around and has the subtitles. So it talks about heart attack, stroke, diabetes. So you're sitting there as a reception area. You're watching this video. It warms people up before they go into their hygiene visit. And we have this all systematized. Doctors are also using it this way, Howard. They're renting out theaters and playing it in a theater, and they are now the go-to doctor in the marketplace for oral systemic health. A lot of specialists are using it, bringing in their GPs because it's raising case acceptance, raising retention, and that helps the specialist as well. So it's
what's gonna in the United States, they tell everybody lip service, truth, liberty, justice, the American way, but American flag basically means money's the answer. What's the question?
Right.
And it's been the only game in Washington D.C. I mean, if you read it back all the way, read about how Congress and Senate worked during Rockefeller and all those guys. I mean, it was just pure whorehouse, buy and sell, pay to play. But I was listening to the CEO of Connecticut General Talk, who used to be not CEO, the director or whatever. He used to be the director of the American Dental Association. But when a girl has a preemie, that their biggest bill isn't you and I having a heart attack or prostate cancer. It's you dropping a 1-pound baby. And they're seeing periodontal disease as the number one culprit of dropping a preemie. And when Simone goes in there and has a 1-pound baby, it's going to be $1 million minimum. It could be $3 million before she takes them home. And so the bottom line is they're starting to realize that it would be cheaper if Medicaid, Medicare, every pregnant girl in America, someone's got to get her into a hygienist and get a cleaning.
Where the movement is, we have lobbyists in D.C. I mean,
that's what's going to move it's premature babies.
Oh yeah, no, but once it became about dollars to the insurance companies, that's the changing behaviors that are going on. I mean, we're trying to get out of our practices. We have a lot of practices in PPOs, but the ones that stay there, that's fine. The ones that want to get off, we can get them off. But what's going to change the dental industry is the insurance companies looks like they're going to become our allies because they're going to be driving more people to our offices, which is very interesting, where we've been fighting them at the beginning of our conversation today. And now it looks like in DC, there's going to be like support on a whole new level of driving people to dental offices, which is really an interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, the main problem with the dental insurance companies and the medical insurance, well, I'll just speak to dental, that the dentists don't want to take any credibility. But by the way, is your baby named Rome because you're
Rome.
Italian?
Yes, no. Here's why. All right, little segue.
Are you Italian?
I'm Italian and Hungarian, right?
Okay.
That's my background. My wife is Lebanese. And we didn't know if we were going to have a boy or a girl, so we had all these girls' names. It was going to be Grace. We didn't have a boy's name. We were going to buy a dishwasher because, in New York, you got to have a good dishwasher for the bottles. We go to Sears, and the guy, he's an Indian gentleman. His name was Rome, and I go, Judith, there's his name. Look how cool that looks. And he goes, yeah, everybody loves my name. And he was going on and on. But everybody thinks that we had sex in Rome and that's where he came from. And, not sexy at all, Howard. It was not sexy.
I love Rome. That is one great time.
He loved you.
What's the chance you could get a Israeli-Palestinian peace agreement right now?
Probably next to nothing.
Yeah. The dentists don't like to admit the fact that it's the same thing with the dental insurance company. So like right now you have the Hinman meeting going on this week. He just had Chicago Mayor. So I've had lunch and dinner with these CEOs. There's 19 different deltas. Like the Delta of California, he'll do $1 billion in sales. Never been invited to speak one time at CDA North, Anaheim. He gives you thousands of dollars a week for 10 years and he only gets one letter from you. You bastard asshole, why did you not cover this? And then he's like, so then they pay the American Dental Association $1,000, who's never sold $1 worth of insurance. And so they have, it's like, we didn't engage Cuba. We had an embargo for 50 years, but we were engaging communist China, communist Russia. So there's been none of these dentists listening here right now, not one of these dentists could name Just write down the name of the 5 dental insurance CEOs who have given them over $100,000. But if you and I mailed her $100,000, oh my God, she'd fly out here and have dinner with us, and be her best friend. So the dentists are the assholes. CDA, one time I went to a CDA convention, and they had brought in Bill Dickerson, and his course was called Delta or the Devil. Could you imagine selling $1 billion of insurance and being called the devil? I mean, dentists are dicks. And when I meet with the insurance companies, they are emotionally wounded to the level of the Israelis, the Palestinians, the Russians, the Ukrainians, the North and South Koreans. They are wounded. And whenever you approach them, they just start moving the chair back and thinking you're gonna bite them. You didn't. So there's in all of business, like when you go to any functional business, it's called the supply chain. Yep. And they all work together and they all go to conventions. I mean, my dad had Sonic drive-ins. You go on vacations with the meat man, the guy who's selling you hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of hamburger and buns and this and that, and you'd have dinner at your house. You talk about, Gary, when you deliver that meat at 11:30, I only make money from 11 to 1. Yeah. I don't make a dime from 9 to 11 or from 1 to 4. The hell are you showing up at my back door for with 10 boxes of meat on a dolly? Exactly. And I'm losing money because somebody's not taking orders. They're checking. So dentists have been so dysfunctional.
I'm so glad you're talking about this.
And they need to reverse that. They need to start having the keynote speakers be the people who give you. Last year, the American dental industry was about 107 billion, and 19 of it. So basically 20% of it came from Delta. Yep. And not one of these guys could pick one of the 19 Delta CEOs off a police lineup, but he has 3 pictures of Kim Kardashian's butt on his iPhone.
Boom, boom, boom. I'm so glad that you're giving props to the industry because, here's the thing. You can either embrace it or you can resist it. And if you put it in proper perspective, like, I wish somebody would give me 60% of my fees. I would be kissing their ass. I just said ass. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Do you ever swear?
Never.
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 So no,
it's Dentistry Uncensored for a reason.
We're unplugged here, right?
But you either believe that the dental insurance, all those employees are like evil people that really hope your kid gets ran over by a car, right? Because that's a part of arrogance, that you're superior in your thoughts, you're superior in your thinking, and you question everyone else's motives. I mean, that's dysfunctional narcissism, sick, and that's the entire industry's attitude with its supply chain. Well, and if they worked with their supply chain, they would, the insurance CEOs, because the insurance CEOs are, the dental insurance CEOs are working with medical, and they're all buzzing about this preemie thing, but missing in those conversations are all the dentists. And another thing that's missing is this. Could you imagine when these new products come out? Because, I've been burned a lot of times in treatment. Remember Ivoclar's Tetric Ceram? Right. Horace Culture's Art Glass. Right. If we were billing these insurance codes with materials, they could tell us, they could be the earliest warning sign, like, hey, we've paid for 1 million of these crowns. Yeah. And in just 12 months, 20%, we've paid someone else to redo it. And that would have been like the warning flag. Everybody said, so they're sitting on more data. And all these people that you did root plane curettage on, they have the data, how many of them went on to have heart attacks and prostate and all that. But they won't even give the American Dental Association their data because that's how dysfunctional the relationship is.
100%. And United Concordia did this amazing study where they have dental insurance and they have med insurance.
Brennan, was it Brennan?
Yeah. And they have the best data. And we included it in the Say Ah movie because it really goes to show that when you get your perio handled, they save, these are specific dollars that are quantifiable over a period of time. 4,000 on heart attacks, 5,000 on preemies, diabetes, 3.5, and this is like doctor visits, prescriptions, like when you add it up on an annual basis. So why wouldn't they just cover all of perio? So that's where this movement is going. So I used to respond to the way dentists, early in my career, Howard, dentists were mad at them, so I would be mad at them. Dentists wanted to fire their teams, And so I would help them fire their teams. Now I learn better, so I can inform better. So it's not the person that's in the team that's the problem. It's the business model, unless you have an unwilling, defiant person. But it's the business model that most dentists are deploying today that are not creating value, that don't have engagement, that don't have a purpose, that aren't systematized. That causes the breakdown. It's not the team member. Same thing with the dental insurance. It's not the dental insurance. It's the business model of how you present the case, and then it's the value proposition. Now, if you're locked into that fee and it's like upside down, well, that's not going to work. But I'm talking average PPOs. You can make it work if you really need to. And then eventually, if you choose to get off, which only 5% of practices, you have the stats on this? Because the last I looked, 5% of practices were fee for service in the U.S.
You mean do not take insurance?
Zero insurance. Like
zero insurance would probably be less than 3%.
3%, okay.
And they're all in rural areas.
Exactly. So they can get away with it. So like you want to really, it's like a keto, is it? Like when you're into the martial arts, right? So it's like when you take the energy and twist the energy so that you use it for yourself. That's the spirit in which we're talking about with using dental insurance in today's world. That's what I believe. And then if you're completely off, let's make that work. If you want to reduce some of the ones that aren't paying well, that are just bringing your numbers down, you bring your profitability up.
And some of this is so there's no relation to even discuss. Like in California, they had this big the government had this big study trying to figure out why only like 10% of dentists took Medicaid, and they found out that their overhead was 65% and their fee schedule was 30%. So you're asking them to do it at a loss. And then I have the other side about perverse incentives. I mean, the problem with the Medicaid and the Medicare is that you have to sit there and do it at this fee. I mean, if they're going to pay $30 towards a PA or a bite wing or cleaning, whatever, why does that have to be the fee? Why can't it be a subsidy? Mm-hmm. Okay, we'll pay $30, but the patient's portion is this. Why is it? And that's the Democrat, socialist, communist bullshit where they're not trying to help the poor. They're trying to control the poor. Mm-hmm. This is the only thing that can be charged. You won't have to have a copayment. You'll eat it. Well, why isn't it just a subsidy? Yeah. Why isn't it just a rebate or a coupon? Why do you have to control the price? Because access would go almost to 100% if you could set your own fee. And that person, and I have a lot of poor people. I mean, I'm in Phoenix. I'm not in Paradise Valley. I'm on Scottsdale. Right across I-10 is Guadalupe. There's 5,000 Guadalupan Indians in there and about 20,000 illegals, and they poorest of the poor. When I go over to their houses, a lot of them have dirt floors. Yep. I ride my bike in there. I see my patients. I go in their house. A lot of them are dirt floors, tables on dirt floors. Then they got iPhones, they got iPads, they got rice bikes. I mean, they're buying all kinds of shit. So if they had Medicaid or Access and it was just paid a portion towards his fee, they'd be going to the doctor they want to go to. I want to go back to one other thing about a shift. When you and I started in this biz, everybody was taught, no one advertised. It was taboo. It was actually illegal in 1973.
I can't believe that.
It was two lawyers in Phoenix here.
Oh, yeah,
well, actually, it was in Tucson.
Okay.
Who took it all the way to the Supreme Court and said, this is freedom of speech. And they overturned it, and that opened the door.
That's great.
So, but it seems to me that here's your dental office capacity, whether it's 4 chairs, 3 chairs, 2 chairs, you got 1 hygienist, 2 chairs. And once you're filled up and booked 2 weeks out in advance, everybody's advertising, spending 3-4%, just pouring coffee in there for 20, 30, 40 years. And they still have the same capacity. They still have the same 1 hygienist, 2 chairs, emergency room. And it's like, do they not realize that all the new patients they poured in that cup of coffee, old coffee went over the edges for 40 years. And I always copied off the big boys. And it seems like the big boys have switched from advertising to loyalty programs.
Oh, yeah.
And it seems like the same dentist who says, well, Gary, all this won't work. Dude, you haven't done anything that's worked for 40 years.
Exactly.
Because if dentistry worked, or if there was a model that worked, then you would go into every small town in America and you'd find Dr. Kadi. Exactly. And he hasn't accepted a new patient in 10 years.
Exactly.
He filled up his office early on in his career.
Yep.
He can barely do their children and grandchildren and all that. But no. Every dentist wants to spend, first it was 0, then it's 3%, now it's 5%, some are saying 7%. I mean, are you out of your mind? So my point is this. Since there's no model that keeps any customers for life, And the airlines, I mean, every commercial you see on a credit card is that Star Wars guy, Chase Rewards car,
right.
the airlines. Everybody's into loyalty. Amazon, if you sign up for their Amazon Prime, Costco doesn't want anybody off the street. You got to be a member.
Exactly.
Everybody's going to loyalty to keep one customer for life. So when he tells you that what you're saying won't work, it's like, as opposed to what? What you're doing that hasn't worked for 40 years?
You're talking about our care system. Here's what's going on, Howard. I was just with Kelly, the care credit rep. I did some co-traveling with her today, and she says hello, by the way. Kelly, the care credit rep.
What's your last name?
Kelly.
Is it Kunkel?
No, it's Kelly. I'll look it up on my phone. Okay. But she says hello. She said you wanted to interview her on about care credit.
I do.
Yeah, she's great.
Is she gonna come by?
Yeah, we'll set it. I'll set it up for you.
You're riding around with her today?
That's my job today. I got a rough job.
Or when you leave here, are you going back with her?
No, I'm done. I'm going to hang out with my guys from Dental Intel.
You should send her over, because you know what I like about that care card, not to go on diversion?
Yep.
Because I know my homies.
Yeah.
And they always say the same thing. You don't understand. I'm in Maricopa County, Arizona. You don't get it, dude. You're from another planet. Care Credit goes in there and they show you what all the dentists are doing in your zip code.
Thank you.
So when you say, well, you only used Care Credit 2 times last month for $600 each.
Yeah.
Do you realize 3 people in this building use it 10 times a week for $6,000 each?
Exactly.
So what's his story?
Exactly.
So I love that.
She's genius. And what Care Credit has now is the intel. Because, my friends at Dental Intel, this is what we believe. We believe that you're benchmarking against 3 things: history, peers, and your targets. Most people are benchmarking against their history, which is archaic. You want to be benchmarking against what your peers are doing, because then you're going to see how you relate to everything, and then you really should be, hey, I want to create this. That's what you benchmark against over here, and it changes the way you practice. That's why I love Dental Intel, and that's why we partner with it. You're going to hear from us in another podcast. It's a game changer. It's a game changer.
Well, I've owned a media company since 1994.
Yeah, thanks for the difference you make in that.
What is 2017 minus 1994? How old is my company?
Too many
23 years.
I remember your first newsletter.
And it's funny because people put all these ads in Dentaltown, but our data shows only 11% trust the company.
Yep.
89% want to log on to the message board and see what all their peers say about the product.
Exactly.
So if you go into a dentist and say, hey, I am all that, they don't even care.
Exactly.
They want to hear a dentist say, yeah, he's all that.
Exactly. And I haven't spent any time on your chat room, which I'm reconsidering now that I have a product that is accessible to all dentists in my partnership with Dental Intel. About $1,000 a month, guaranteed return on investment. One more crown a month. Now I have, because I had a very premier brand, very high end. Now I have an automated self-managed system that has a dashboard and an accountability coach, and we're watching everything and alerting you, sending you alerts, and now you have full control, and you don't even have to think about practice management. So now I'm going to start building a community inside yours and say, hey, this is an automated process that you will guarantee to pay for itself.
And what problems is this going to solve?
The problem that this solves is the unawareness. I don't know if that's a word. The problem that this solves is most practitioners don't know their information until it's too late. The archaic softwares of Dentrix, EagleSoft, all those major softwares, here's what we're finding. Think about it. You have to go pull data. By the time you pull the data, by the time you bring it to your team meeting, by the time it's configured in a way you can understand it, it's not usable. Imagine now that we push it to your cell phone, your smartphone, your desktop, your iPad, and I got a ticker going across on items that look like this. Here's how many patients are being pre-appointed out of your hygiene department. We always ask this question, and this is what you're talking about, like about retaining, we keep pouring in new patients. I was with Kelly today. Here's the thing, Howard.
You got to find her last name on her cell phone right now.
Yeah, well, right now, all right.
By the way, when you said unawareness, not a word, that's why I named my book Uncomplicate Business, because uncomplicate's not a word.
Okay, good.
So you go to Amazon, type in Uncomplicate. It's the only book that comes up. So unawareness should be the name of your next book.
I like that.
I know my homies. I mean, I've been on the message boards 3-4 hours a day. I lecture 50 times a year. I know they're in their walnut brain, they're thinking, dude, my problem's overhead. If this doesn't affect their overhead, they're not even.
Here's the three things that we optimize: care, patient care, we optimize team performance, and we optimize profitability. You know yourself, Howard. It's really freaking simple. You can slice and dice cotton rolls till the cows come home. You know how to increase profitability. It's your top line. You nailed it. When you put this cup right here, what the problem with most practices is that they're coming through the top and they're a sieve out the bottom. Here, let's do some numbers. Our system is CARE. CA stands care. CA stands for case acceptance. R stands for retention. E stands for the experience of the new patient. I was just with Kelly today at Care Credit. We walked in, we said, what is the biggest area you're going to work on? 10 out of 10 people will say this. What do they say? How do I build my practice? What are they going to say? New patients.
New patients.
And what you just said is I'm going to keep pouring in for 40 years, new patients, and I still have one hygienist. So of these three, what are the most important? Retention, longevity, loyalty. We did the stats. Before we go in and put this number in, how many patients come back twice through your hygiene department? Just before we put in a system, this complete health model, what do you think it is? On average, twice.
What percent of patients come through
out of
twice?
10 people, if I'm dropping 10 new patients in, how many of those patients come back twice?
1 in 5.
Yeah, very good. You nailed it. 20%.
Yeah.
That is horrible. Watch the business model here. $300 to $500, and if you're good, maybe $200. Drop in a new patient, and that's your cost of acquisition, right? Then only 20% of them are coming back. The prophy exam and X-rays with their PPO is 150 times 2. That's 300. If you increase 150 to 300, you move your 20% to 80%, which we do. Your revenue goes through the roof. Now, the case acceptance, because they're showing up, goes through the roof because when they're there, they're investing in treatment. And we have a 5-step process that emotionally engages. I was just watching how doctors were presenting just in these Care Credit meetings that I had this morning. They're all presenting commoditized logical thinking, people by emotion. If you're selling complete health and longevity and sustainability, and you show the patient, we have a very simple process of health history first.
This your 5 things?
Yeah. First is health history. It really distinguishes that now you're talking about whole body health. If you look at the health history, my grandfather died of pancreatic cancer. Step number 1. Step number 2, of all the patients, we were at the Flatiron Building. We're right across the street from the Flatiron Building. We interviewed 100 patients. How many of them could tell me one aspect of a healthy mouth out of those 100? 0. They go, when you take a Tic Tac and you breathe in, or when you go to your hygienist and swipe your tongue across, that's what a healthy mouth is. Nobody knows what a healthy mouth is. So we invented a system called the Healthy Mouth Baseline. And you can download this at our website, nextlevelpractice.com. It's called the Healthy Mouth Baseline. And what this is this gives you a tool to benchmark. It's an 8.5 by 11 sheet of all the aspects of what's healthy or what's not in your practice. It's a game changer.
So if they go to nextlevelpractice.com.
Yep.
The number 1 was health history. Number 2 was what?
Healthy Mouth Baseline.
Healthy Mouth Baseline. So that's
that's my book. That's the Next Level Way that talks about how we run our company and our strategies.
Is that an ebook?
Yeah, it's an ebook. They get immediately when they go to the site.
How much is that?
Free. It's free to them.
So if they go to your website, nextlevelpractice.com, they can download
the Next Level Way. Yep.
The Next Level Way. It's a free ebook.
Yep.
Now, is that on? If I tweeted a link to that book, would that book come down, or would you want to just tweet a link to your website?
To the website, or you would what? You could just tweet a link to the website.
Are you on Twitter?
Yes. Yep.
Let me see. And so talk about that healthy baseline again.
Yeah. So the Healthy Mouth Baseline does this. Like we said earlier, if you walk into a treatment room and you're going, hey, is anything hurting, anything bothering you? All of a sudden, you myopically now shut down 95% of dentistry that actually can be presented, especially the asymptomatic dentistry. So what we found was, here's the other thing that was happening. We were in a practice, and this was amazing, Howard. I'm going to keep talking to you while you're tweeting away.
No, I'm not tweeting. I'm trying to find. I can't find on your website.
The Healthy Mouth Baseline?
The Healthy Mouth Baseline.
It's under resources on the dash up top.
Okay, under the dash.
Yeah, there, and it's under. Does it say resources there or tools or?
No.
What does it
Program. Okay, it says home, why NextLevel, about, programs, events, products, case studies, blog.
say? Go into products.
Healthy mouth baseline.
There it is.
Tool.
Yep.
Okay, so then I fill that out and then I'll send it to you.
Yep.
Okay, so I was stuck on the 5. So,
so
health history.
Healthy mouth baseline.
Can you explain the healthy mouth baseline?
Yeah.
Do you know off the top of your head?
Yeah, so here's what happened. I got to see that practices didn't agree on what was healthy in the practice. You know, like I originally started out where I had the big practices, multi-unit practices, 3 doctors, 5 hygienists. And what I got to see was, this was my breakthrough, that one doctor would only go to this hygienist, or this hygienist would only do a check with this doctor because they thought they were overly aggressive, not too aggressive. There was no agreement for what was healthy in that practice. You know, one doctor would be, blood in the sink, don't worry about it. The hygienist was like, no, I want my guy to diagnose that as perio, right? So what I got to see was, this is the beginnings of increasing retention and case acceptance, that 40-year hole where you're, this is the keystone for it. Because if you don't have an agreement amongst all your team members of what's healthy and what's not, people are making interpretations of what's healthy or not. That is the first thing that needs to be cleaned up. Then the other thing that was happening was, imagine that you have a guy come in and all of a sudden you see a roundhouse in his mouth, and you do cosmetic dentistry, but he was never offered that. The reason is because this healthy mouth baseline allows the breadth and depth of services that a practice can offer. It allows you to like your assistant and your hygienist to now tee you up, so you're not having to go, hey, did you think about whitening? Did you think about veneers? Like, how do you breathe at night? Like, that's what this does. Like, we did use this for Invisalign. Occlusion is a problem, but if you don't declare it as a problem, then you don't have the need to offer Invisalign, as an aesthetic and a functional position, even a soft tissue issue. Now you can have all those conversations with a patient where you couldn't before. So this healthy mouth baseline changes everything. And it's been a game changer for case acceptance, retention, also engagement. I analyzed the conversations for health happening in hygiene rooms. 3% of conversation had to do about oral health and overall health. The rest of the time they're talking about stuff that doesn't matter. So this prompts the conversation and focuses where the hygienist generally.
Yeah, it's weird because, like, when you go to your physician or your cardiologist, would you want to sit there and start talking about your kids and your children and your vacations and all
That's what's
stuff?
going on.
I mean, when you go into a hygiene room, you think you're getting your hair or your nails done.
You got it. You got your
And it's
paraffin
like-
wax. Nothing wrong with that. It's nice to have a nice thing. But if you don't add education, how are you going to actually create value? And then that's what we do at the source. This is why hygiene holes are prevalent in dentistry, because they interpret it as a nice thing to do, not a life-saving visit that will be connected. Now let me show you how this 5-step works.
Okay, so one was health history, 2 was health mouth baseline. What's 3, 4, 5?
Problem, consequence, solution.
That's 3, 4, and 5?
No, this is
3 is
PCS.
Problem, consequence, solution.
Highlight the problem, highlight the consequence, highlight the solution, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so what happens is, if you don't do that, that's where the intraoral camera comes in. You have to visually depict and show. So let me reverse a little bit just so I can bring it all back. Health history. When I fill mine out, my grandfather, it's family history. You can't refute family history. You know yourself. DNA will start leading to you. If my mom has dementia and my grandfather died of pancreatic cancer, I have DNA that's connected to those people. You're not going to refute that, right?
Right.
So what happens is when you tie family history to the education, now all of a sudden the patient's listening differently. When you look at it, you'll see my grandfather died of pancreatic cancer. I had pancreatitis. Itis, you just say, is inflammation. Now all of a sudden you open my mouth up, inflammation in the mouth, can't resolve. You have this much inflammation. Now we have something called our oral systemic health cards. You pull out the pancreatic cancer and it shows we don't want our dental teams to have to learn everything in medicine, so we automated the system. Imagine pulling out the pancreatic health card and it shows that UCLA and Harvard showed their 2 studies. Here's the link, the web link to review it, so it's irrefutable. The causal connection between perio and pancreatic cancer, 62% higher incidence. Now all of a sudden you're not presenting root planing and scaling to me. You're take it to wood shop and plane your gums. You're showing them the why it's important, how you're going to have longevity happen, and now all of a sudden you show them visually using the problem, consequence, solution. Problem, 6 millimeter pocket around number 18 because you got an implant over there. Here's your bleed. Here's your bleeding spit in the spittoon. It's tangible. We got to bring tangibility to this, and you do that using. Here's the problem. You see the movie Hitch? The movie Hitch.
What was that? I think
it was Will Smith and the other guy who's Kevin something, and Will Smith is teaching Kevin how to kiss a girl. So they're on the stoop, and he's like, "Hey, this is how you kiss a girl. You go in 90%, and you have the girl come to you 10%. You don't." And then what Kevin, I forget the comedian's name. You don't go all the way into 100% because that's forcing yourself on somebody. This model has the patient come to us, highlight the problem. You have your grandfather had pancreatic cancer. You had pancreatitis. You have inflammation in your mouth. It's not going to help your body resolve inflammation in the body.
You know, back to that kiss. I've been dating for so long. My eyes are now immune to mace. Completely immune.
So anyway, let me finish up here.
So what's 3?
Problem, consequence, solution has the patient come to you. You don't offer the solution until they say, how do I get this out of my mouth? What do I do about it? How much does it cost? Will my insurance cover? Then the context of will my insurance cover shows them that they're coming to you because they just showed you that they're interested. Number 4 is trust transfer, the 5-time trust transfer. So here's what happens. You see it happen in your practice all the time. The 5-time trust transfer. The 5-time trust transfer is you're moving, you in the back, you're saying, man, we closed this case, you're ready to move forward. The patient said yes. And then all of a sudden, between, every dentist has it, the corridor, you know, with the lights and the numbers and the rooms. You walk down that corridor, and all of a sudden the patient gets amnesia, and they're saying yes and they mean no, and they're going, oh, I got these guys, because in the back they said yes. Nobody's transferring what happened in the back to the front, and now all of a sudden I can say yes, schedule that. By the way, a scheduled appointment is not a closed case. They say yes, mean no. They do the 6-month boogie on the way out. They're going, man, I got out. I can cancel that appointment, and we're out of here. So patients know the machinery. They only want to go see the hygienist. They don't want to go see the dentist. They're going, nothing hurts in my mouth. Let me get the hell out of here. So the 5-time trust transfer, the hygienist or the assistant, and we call them hygienists or ninjas. We call them, we change the way that they go to work. Hygienist or ninja, using that system versus a hygienist or just an assistant, very different.
You call the assistant a ninja?
A ninja. No, I'm not just an assistant. Their self-esteem,
nice.
Yeah, their self-esteem rises through the roof. Now all of a sudden they don't feel like they're a redheaded, ugly stepchild, Howard, of like some hygienist, or they don't have a hygienist. They feel empowered. You know, we're about empowering the team performance.
That sounds better than me because I just abbreviate assistants to ass. I like your no, I'm not just an assistant.
You know what, Howard? You have this profound way of words, man. You just and
the other one was the hygienist.
Hygienist, man. Hygienist. You want a hygienist there because they're gonna.
Oh, okay, so but here's okay. So I'm in the field a lot as you are. This is what the assistants are coming up and telling me. This is what the hygienists coming up to me. The doctor won't discuss their thoughts and their diagnosing and their protocol with the hygienist or assistant. They're like, I'm a doctor,
right? And
you're not. I'm talking to the patient. You're not going to diagnose. You're not going to read the X-rays. You suck and you scrape.
Yeah, and you know what they're saying to you about you, the dentist? You're dead to me. I'm just picking up a paycheck here. That's what they're saying about you.
So how do you get that arrogant dick dentist? I mean, because what I say to him is this: if you can't sell your own family, your hygienist, if you can't sell them on the treatment plan, how do you think you're going to sell a stranger? Because what we do is we go in there and I'll say something and I'll leave on my iPhone to record and walk out of the room. Yeah. And every time the first 5 questions to the hygienist assistant are trust-based.
Yep.
Do I really have gum disease? Do I, so I'm the guy in the big house, a nice Lexus.
Yeah.
And these guys won't let their hygienist or assistant talk.
Yep.
They won't engage them.
Yep.
They ask, I've seen some incredibly rude behavior.
Yep.
Well, how come you don't do this or that and that? Well, if you went to dental school, you would know.
Wait till you hear this.
Answer.
Oh, well, here's where this all changed. So I'm not a clinician, so I figured I got to sit in a dental practice to know what it's like to be a hygienist, to be an assistant. So I sit as an assistant. I'm sitting there. I'm scrubbed up. We're 4 wisdom teeth, and then we just presented a case. The doctor walks out. What do you think the patient says to me? Should I trust him? Should I do this? Do you get your dentistry here? Ask me all these cases. Now, I'm in this office, and there's a consultant yelling at the treatment plan coordinator who's not closing cases. And guess who's the person closing the cases, Howard? The ninja. Because she's the lay or he's the lay person sitting there going, that guy's an ass. He treats me like crap. And I'm going to get out of here. So the first thing I teach dentists is don't invalidate, but empower your most trusted, the two most trusted people, your ninjas and your hygienists. That's who the patient really listens to. They're not listening to you. By the way, when I tell people what industry I'm in, Howard, they go, I like my dentist, but he's a thief. I mean, 9.9 out of 10 times. Because why? We haven't done a good job in the industry at letting people know what they need and why they need it. So they think you're trying to buy your next Porsche in their mouth. That's what's going on.
Yeah, when I get on an airplane and I sit next to a complete stranger, I don't tell him what he is. I just sit there and say, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Describe the first 5 words that come to your mind when you think of a dentist. It's never loving, warm, empathy. It's always arrogant. It's always conceited. It's always negative.
Well, that's why women are taking over.
And then the dentist will say to you, the dentist will look you in the eyes. There's two things where you can just call bullshit on this. You say, what percent of your root canals fail? Back to the insurance data. The insurance companies who are crunching hundreds of millions of claims, saying that when they do a molar root canal, in 5 years of a general dentist said it, 10% have been extracted. We're not talking about the other ones that are failed, cracked, capillaria. We're talking just measured by extraction.
Right.
10%.
Yeah.
And an endodontist does it 5%. So 1 in 10 molar root canals fail. Ask an general dentist, what percent of your molar root canals fail? Well, knock on wood. Knock on wood. I've never had one fail. Then you say, well, what percent of your patients love you? Well, you know what? I'm a likable guy. I'm a good old boy from Texas. Yeah. It's like, well, dude, you have 5,000 charts, and 4,000 never came back.
Exactly. That's why ladies...
And you're still adding new patients. You're in a town of 20,000 people, and you're still marketing for new patients 40 years later.
I know. And going back, just to pull all this together, 20% of people come back once. Imagine moving that to 80. Our case acceptance... 15% for new because there's no trust. I'm talking about how much dentistry is totally needed in that mouth and how much is actually accepted, 15%. And your recare people, 32% in there. Imagine increasing 20 to 80 and 15 and 33 to 67. Now drop a new patient into that machine and watch it blow up.
Okay, how many practices?
Let me finish the last step.
Go ahead. Okay,
because I know we have methodical thinkers out there, so I wanted to make sure that they got it all. Because you and I just riff, and I love it. This last piece is fitting the treatment into their lifestyle. You have to have a dedicated person in a consult room, removing the unknowns. So think about it this way: if you don't close the case down in terms of time, money, and pain, do you make it so by the time that patient's driving back to that appointment, do they think it's going to be more money or less money if they don't know how much it is before they leave? More, right? Is it going to hurt more or less? More. Is it going to take more time or less? More. Why would you ever go to that appointment? So we have a system where if it's committed to, signed and money paid, and they know how much it is and how much time it's going to take, now all of a sudden you remove all that. Now you're not going to get your broken and canceled appointments in your doctor's schedule. It virtually goes down, especially when you get them prepaid. And what we do is with Care Credit there, option number 1 is a 5% courtesy paid in full. Option number 2 is up to 12 months interest rate. Option number 3 is paid half and half. So when we do this in my book, $1 Million Dentistry, we lay this whole system out because if you don't have a system and a person dedicated in a consult room, game over. So
you're talking about a treatment plan presenter.
Yes, you got to have. And
I like all my staff named after a piece of furniture, like front.
We call them financial freedom fighters. Imagine going to work and you're helping people.
But you call them what? Financial
freedom fighters.
Financial freedom fighters.
Because that's like, imagine being a treatment coordinator. You're not like the principal taking the girl in the principal's office and like beating them up. You're a financial freedom fighter. You're here to fight for the patient's financial freedom. And now all of a sudden, it's a different context to go to work. And you said front desk. We call them Dofies. We have Dofi Nation, Director First Impressions. Dofi Nation. Now all of a sudden they get excited about going to work because they know that how they sound, how they look, how they hear, how they care for people, it changes everything.
Okay, our hour's up.
We're done.
But I got to go into overtime because I know my home. I love dentists. I really do. Mm-hmm. I love them with all my heart. Hell, I'm a dentist. Even when they retire, it's still a damn dentist. I mean, even when they sell their practice, you're still dealing with a damn dentist. The dentist doesn't believe any of this stuff. The dentist thinks that if you want to fix your practice, you're a restaurant. and all you sell is this and that. I need to go add a new dish, lasagna or beef stroganoff. I need to go learn how to place implants, or I need to go get CAD CAM, or I need to learn how to make a new dish. If I could just learn how to add more shit to my restaurant menu, all these dysfunctional, crazy financial staff problems will all take care of itself. You see a ton of offices. When you look at your average successful office, let's just say does $1 million a year, doc takes home 300, real happy, 3 or 4. Okay, let's go with $1 million practice, doc takes home 400. Are these guys more likely or not likely to place implants, do sinus lifts, do all their molar endo, do Invisalign, have CAD CAM?
That's your bread and butter guys. Your bread and butter guys. Let's run some quick numbers.
I know. Did you hear that? Every consultant says the same thing. It's the bread and butter guys. They don't even do molar endo. They don't place implants. They just have human relations down. They got the hygiene department. They got long-term staff. They're just doing fillings and crowns all day long, and they just do $1 million and take home 400. And the whole industry makes them think, well, you got to have a CBCT and a CAD CAM and a laser, and you got to go.
Those are guys doing 2. See, what gets you to $1 million is not what gets you to 2. Bread and butter gets you to $1 million. Very simple model. I'll give you the model. Here's what it is. Two visits in hygiene, right? $300. I'm doing PPO fees right now. Okay, so 2 visits in hygiene is $300, right? The value of a crown and a build-up. So I'm using my care system. Increase retention, increase case acceptance. The value of a crown and a build-up in a PPO office, let's just call it 1,000 plus 300. The average annual value of an adult in a PPO office is $1,300. Coming back twice, investing in a crown to build up. I'm not saying everybody buys a crown. Some are doing quads, some are doing Invisalign, some are buying nothing, but that's our target point. That's our benchmark. 1,300 times 1,000 patients, $1.3 million. There you go. That's the simple equation. Then when you add all the other implants, like I have guys in tiny rural places doing $2+ million, 1 doctor, 2 to 3 hygienists.
What do you think's a better return on investment? $50,000 consultant or $150,000 CAD CAM?
They both have good return on investment. I mean, it depends on how you use them. Our program is guaranteed return on investment. So we have a couple programs. You can owe as you grow, so you only pay us when you grow.
How much is your program?
We have programs that start at $1,000 a month. So we have and then we have them go all the way up if you're going to work with me to $250,000. So if you want to work with me, it's $250,000.
$250,000 a year?
To work with me personally, yes.
$250,000 a year?
Yes. And I'll get many multiples of that because these are groups, these are 2 or 3, so I take those on all day like that, and it's worth it because I'm a strategist. See, I do 2 things. Why people invest in us? I put great strategy together, and then I put the implementation in because yourself. How many of these guys go to a seminar on a Friday? They think it all sounds good, but come Monday when Mrs. Smith's...
There's no implementation.
So we focused on 2 things. Strategy, so it's aligned with the ethics of the doctor that we work with, and then implementation. We handhold your entire team. We create a culture of willingness and handhold them using our dashboard, so we're dealing with facts. Howard, I have a air traffic controller. I can pinpoint that this hygienist needs this training, and I have video training that supports that. So that's how the millennials are learning, by the way. We talked about Millennial Nation. All of our training is done. I've videotaped, it took me 3 years, videotaped how to increase your, when a patient leaves when a patient leaves a hygiene room, everybody says, oh yeah, we pre-point everybody. Meanwhile, on our dashboard, you'll see that it's 40%, 30%. They're leaking out the back. If I just plug that one hole with a hygienist, everything blows up. And then the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And we just use our dashboard tied to our education system. And it changes everything.
Okay, last overtime question. We're way over as... She just graduated from dental school. She's 25 years old. She's got $350,000 of debt.
Yep.
She's scared. Will I ever be able to pay back these $350,000 student debt? What would you tell a 25-year-old girl with $250,000 in debt? And she's saying, Gary, what should I do?
I would go for it. What I would do is I'd set my practice up right from the start. I would have a vision, purpose, and values that inspires her and inspires her team and serves this complete health model. I would set it up right from the start. So we don't build it like, and hope to get a hygienist in there. We build it right from the start, and then we crank out our marketing. We fill it up, and then we refine down the PPOs. So we fill up, we get our cash flow going ahead. Once we build our cash flow, then we go into profit. So we build top line first, then we clean up down. That person can probably, I would also suggest buying a baby boomer doctor. This is the number one strategy that I would give to this 25-year-old. Buy a baby boomer doctor's practice, because they're priced wrong. Here's why they're priced wrong. They're priced on what that doctor could present and collect over a period of time, and you take a percentage of that, usually 60 to 90%. What the real value is that equation that I just showed you. If you look at that practice and they have 2,000 patients and the average annual value is $1,300, the capacity for that practice is 2.6. If that guy's doing about 600 and he sells it to you for 400, now you got 350 plus 400, it's 700. I can get that practice to $1 million very fast. Now all of a sudden you're taking that money, we can pay for that practice within 2 years, and you're going to have your debt, your student loan paid down in maybe 3 and 4, you're completely out of debt. That's the strategy, because the baby boomer doctors are hungry to get out, but they didn't do a good job and if you're a baby boomer doctor, I want to speak to that too. Don't let your retirement go away by sitting on all these patients. Focus on developing your practice internally through retention and case acceptance. Get that number up. I'm working with a lot of baby boomers right now, Howard. To get that number from 6 to over $1 million, now the retirement goes up about 200 to 300 grand. So the strategy is both, depending on where you're at in your career. But that 25-year-old, I would be buying a baby boomer that has a lot of patients, because the patient acquisition is where the cost is. And then if you understand the strategy, and most, by the way, females are fantastic. They don't have that ego coming in. So we work with more than half of our doctors now are females, because they understand what I'm talking about. They don't question me. They trust it. They follow the system and they get the result, because they have to be moms, Pilates instructors, look sexy, and do great dentistry. They got to get in and out fast. They can't be thinking about all this ego stuff. That's why I think women are really making a difference in dentistry now.
And I can think of at least 100 dentists who would benefit with a transgender operation.
You get fist bump by that, brother.
If I could just castrate them.
But they can't go to the bathroom in Texas or North Carolina. That would be a problem.
Well, hey,
how'd I do? Was this good?
You were awesome, and I want to thank you for coming by the house.
You're a blessing, Howard. I love you.
For 20 years. Give your wife in Rome a big hug and kiss from Uncle Howie. And
I love you, brother. I love you.
So they go to your website.
NextLevelPractice.com. They can, here's the thing.
Do you want to give them your email?
Yeah, I'm going to give them my email. Gary at NextLevelPractice.com. Gary at NextLevelPractice.com. That's my personal email. We're going to blow it up. I don't care. I'm ready to blow it up.
All right. Thank you very much, buddy. Thank you.
Our nation can only be as strong as our health, and we're not doing well now. We have twice the chronic disease of Europe and 4 times that of Mexico, Japan, China, and India. 75% of our medical costs are caused by chronic disease, by things that we can prevent. Only if America stops the influx of chronic disease. Only if each individual stops their own chronic disease can we lead in healthcare, and can America be a vibrant country with a high standard of living.
Within creation of health, we're helping to take a person who is not yet sick, has not developed a problem, and prevent them from ever going down the path to sustaining that illness. So as I'm identifying patients with disease, I would have a subset of patients who I couldn't find a cause for the problem. Well, then when I discovered the amazingly strong association between mouth disease and the things that I do treat, like blood pressure, diabetes, heart attacks and strokes, even things like pneumonia, and a whole long list of systemic diseases that can originate from disease in our mouth, that was another turning point in my career. Once I looked inside the mouth, I found the source of a lot of problems in people who otherwise might not have had their problems identified.
The mouth and the rest of the body relate anatomically and functionally, and that's why the oral systemic connection is absolutely inherent in the way we're put together.
From a disease standpoint, when we have different situations in the mouth, we respond, our body responds with inflammation, and that's where we start the inflammatory cascade that's affecting most of these inflammatory diseases. I want you to think about this. Inflammation, and there's a concept called inflammatory burden. When you get more inflammation in your system, the accumulation of that will have a tipping point where you tend to have inflammatory disease. Inflammatory diseases are heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis, various cancers, kidney disease, pancreatic cancer. The list goes on and on and on.
We're in a state of chronic inflammation, and that's the basis for every disease that everyone has. It's the basis for cardiovascular disease. It's the basis for cancer. When you're dealing with periodontal disease, there's this entire inflammatory cascade going on that people don't understand. When you get a cut, for example, okay, your body is set up to heal that cut, and that goes through a process of inflammatory response to solve the problem and resolve. If you always have a chronic inflammatory bacterial condition in your mouth, then you never turn off that process of inflammation. In other words, it never gets the opportunity to resolve and go away. There's just too much. The body can't react to all of them, and the body gets sick.
Periodontal disease, periodontitis, gum disease, whatever you call it, it all begins with bacteria. Bacteria are microscopic organisms, and in your mouth, there are billions. Over time, these bacteria can stick together and multiply over and over again. They can then form a colony and join together to create a thick layer called a plaque biofilm. Then, over a short period of time, it can dramatically spread throughout all of your mouth, teeth, gums, tongue, cheeks, everywhere. If there's an opening in your bloodstream in your mouth, the harmful bacteria can enter, causing the body many sicknesses. But there is another problem that occurs in response to the bacteria as your body tries to fight back. Inflammatory cells are triggered to try and kill the bacteria. But bacteria build their own strong defenses and battle back. This microscopic war ensues, and the result? Chronic inflammation. And inflammation is the basis for so many diseases.
So bacteria is basically a foreign organism that comes into our body and attacks our body and causes disease.
So we say to the dental patient, you have an infection in your gums. The total area of your gums is about the size of the palm of your hand. If you looked at the palm of your hand and you saw an open wound the size of the palm of your hand, would you just decide not to do anything about it? And yet people are choosing every day not to address the infection in their mouths. People think that it's normal that when they brush their teeth, their gums bleed. And I don't know where they came up with that.
If there's a little blood in the sink, it means they've got a problem. The bacteria that cause inflammation in the mouth will typically cause inflammation in the rest of the body. Yet if there's a little inflammation between the teeth, it means that there's a problem where those high-risk bacteria may be getting into their bloodstream and cause any one of the many systemic diseases that can originate from bacteria in the mouth.
We've always had a keen interest in the health of the mouth in our work to prevent heart attacks and strokes, and that has just intensified as the science has evolved. We now have great science telling us that the cause of arterial disease is inflammation. And another source of arterial inflammation is infection in the mouth. With the most recent study coming out, it actually implies up to 50% or more of acute heart attacks are triggered by oral infection. That's huge. Heart attacks are the #1 killer in this country. Strokes are the #1 cause of disability. The current cost of cardiovascular disease to our healthcare system is about $518 billion. And it's all preventable.
Inflammation sets up a reaction that causes things in our body that makes us less responsive to insulin, which is how we develop type 2 diabetes. So whether it is inflammation from just a fat belly, or whether it's inflammation from gum disease, or whether it's inflammation because you've got a chronic abscess someplace, it causes the same process of a resistance to insulin, which leads to type 2 diabetes, or is the hallmark of type 2 diabetes.
Even mild periodontal infections, when it occurs in combination with some other secondary infection, could cause severe adverse outcomes. And for periodontal disease, it tends to be ignored because it doesn't kill. But I think what we're showing here is periodontal disease does kill, because if the bacteria gets into the blood circulation and gets to the uterus, it could kill the baby.
They now tell us that half of America has a condition known as periodontal disease. Well, what it says to me is half the people that now go into surgery have this condition, and we know what can happen with this condition in surgery. The body can only fight infection on so many fronts, and it's like a war. It has a certain amount of resources it can allocate to that fight. And when you have an infection elsewhere in your body, it's allocated resources to that infection site. And then when you go in and do a surgery, you create another wound, and that wound demands that the body put attention to it too. So the reason you don't do surgeries on patients who have infections is because it diminishes their ability to recover from the surgery and increases the likelihood that any other bacteria could then take hold because there just aren't enough antibodies to fight that infection.
It's clear to see that the inflammatory burden caused by periodontal disease is a serious problem. For the mouths of America to get healthier, there is a specially trained group of men and women in this country who will have to step forward and provide preventive care. Some refer to them as oral medicine specialists. We know them as the dentist.
Now the dentist is looking through a wider scope, a wider viewfinder, and now being a screener, looking at a wider context of treating the whole person versus just the mouth. And we're not saying dentists are going to replace medicine. No, they're now partners with. And they are the first line of defense because the mouth is that first indicator. And check this out. 9 out of 10 patients who go to a dental office do not have a primary care physician on their medical history form.
The public, government, insurance, caregivers, and even dentists themselves have to begin to think of dentistry as part of the first line of defense against disease and sickness. The distinction between the standard dentist and a complete health dentist is extremely important. The standard dentist does a good job of taking care of teeth in the mouth, but a complete health dentist focuses not only on care of teeth and the mouth, but also cares for the complete health of the individual.
I know we're going to make some vast changes in people's lives for the better. We're going to save a lot of lives. We're going to improve a lot of health. We're going to save a lot of healthcare costs. And I have no doubt that the world will be a better place because of all the work all of these passionate individuals are doing.
There doesn't have to be any one hero. There just has to be a whole lot of heroes working together.
One of the keys in everyone getting healthy is decreasing inflammation. And the most powerful thing we know about decreasing inflammation is taking care of your gums. And dentistry has a key role in that.